They sang for Disney princesses, built fashion empires from scratch, chose the leading trends of beauty and entertainment, and climbed to the top of some of the most competitive industries in the world. From Manhattan, these women from the Philippines shaped and dominated New York's leading markets for decades. But behind every headline is a journey most people never hear about. Who are these women and how did they actually do it? These are the stories of 10 women from the Philippines who conquered Manhattan. The last would go on to conquer the entire global fashion industry. Lea Salonga. Before she was well known in Hollywood, she was a young talent in Manila whose voice and acting range got her into the best auditions and roles. Meet Lea Salonga, the girl who didn't need New York to validate her talent. And by the time she arrived on Broadway, she had already spent years building one of the best careers in the history of Philippine theaters. Yet that was just the start of her story. New York is where the world was watching, and what she did there changed the entire trajectory of her life. And no longer would the Western stage be dominated by those only from there. Leah's role in Miss Saigon made her the first Asian woman to win a Tony Award for Best Actress in a Broadway musical. This was one of the most competitive categories in a field where many believed true competition could only be measured in decades of training and sacrifice. Yet Lea Salonga won it at just 20 years old, and for a while after that, it seemed there was nothing else going for her. But when Disney came calling, it was clear her career was just beginning. Lea auditioned and was chosen to be the singing voice of Princess Jasmine in Aladdin, as well as Mulan in the film of the same name. These were two of the most iconic characters in the studio's history. Her performance of the famous song A Whole New World is considered one of the best in Disney's entire history. It is played at weddings and theme parks and has millions of streams on Spotify. Lea Salonga proved that a Filipino voice belonged at the center of the American stage and is reportedly having an upcoming Hollywood Walk of Fame with her name on it. Yet while this was happening in that same city, another woman from the Philippines had sold out Fashion Week. Marisa Delgado. Engineering, modeling, and beauty queen are very different career paths to be fully dedicated to. And most people would simply pick one lane and stick to it. But not Marisa Delgado. She looked at all three and said yes to all of them at the same time. And most interestingly, she pulled it off quite well. So how was she able to do this? From a young age, Marisa was trained to be skilled with multiple things at once. To start with, Marisa was born in the Philippines and raised across cultures. And when she arrived in New York, she brought a rare combination of ambition, technical discipline, and stage presence. Marisa earned her credentials as an engineer first, graduating with very high grades, generous scholarships available, and a generally promising future ahead. But engineering was only part of the story, because her most visible moment in New York came when she was crowned Miss New York USA, one of the most competitive state titles in the American pageant circuit. This pageant system fed directly into a national platform with real commercial value. Winners and high-placing contestants attracted brand partnerships, speaking opportunities, and media visibility that can translate into lasting careers when used correctly. But yet again, she had another blooming interest. Her prior modeling side hustle had given her visibility in New York's image-driven economy. And in that space, a face associated with both beauty and academic intelligence carries a different kind of brand and value than anything else in the industry. Marisa was someone who could debate top issues in science, engineering, and ethics under immense pressure, while also able to strike a pose with highly photogenic looks. A woman of her kind was almost impossible to find in the industry, and Marisa proved that a Filipino woman from outside the American system could walk into one of its most competitive arenas, a pageant stage in New York, and win it without sacrificing the credentials that made her formidable to begin with. But what about a woman who couldn't have it all at first? Christina Rodolfo. She was the woman who arrived in New York with nothing but a press badge and a strong ambition, yet ended up ruling the cultural landscape of New York's beauty and fashion industry. She had nothing big going for her from the start, not even a famous last name or a trust fund. What she did have were writing skills and a sharp eye for the fashion and beauty industry. And with that, Christina Rodolfo would build her career from the inside of some of the most competitive editorial rooms in American media. And as she expected, the industry was brutal and unforgiving. New York's media industry is not known for its patience with outsiders, and Christina simply had to work her way up by sheer force of craft. Yet her achievements from this point were beyond incredible. After years of pitching, writing, editing, and surviving, she rose to become the beauty director at Elle magazine. This was one of the most recognized fashion and beauty publications on the market, and her role as beauty director gave her control over the narrative around which products, brands, and trends reached millions of readers. It was a cultural superpower that most people within the industry could only dream of, as money alone wasn't enough in places like this. As any veteran in the industry would tell you, brands do not simply pay for advertising space in a publication like Elle. She was the one who decided what brands sold and the ones that didn't, which meant all of Hollywood's celebrities in New York, following the latest trends, only do so because she recommended those products and resources from her office. Christina also used her visibility to promote Filipino beauty traditions and brands. She brought in cultural advocacy to her work. And while many who try doing this today only end up shoving good but unwanted traditions down customers' throats, Christina did it in a way that New York's top celebrities and luxury brands appreciated. She did all of this with nothing but a sharp eye, decent writing skills, and a bit of work. But cooking wasn't one of them. Christetta Comerford. This woman with the wildest ambition in the culinary world has cooked for presidents, heads of state, and the most powerful families in the world. And she got the job just by trying to be the most skilled person in the room. She was the executive chef of the White House in 2005, making her not only the first woman to hold that title, but also the first person of Asian descent to do so. Better yet, she has kept that position through 5 presidential administrations, from Bill Clinton through Joe Biden. This is the longest record of longevity for a chef in this rank, especially when working in the most scrutinized kitchen in the world. The White House kitchen is not a place that tolerates learning curves. Every dinner has diplomatic implications, and every menu is a statement. The person who designs those menus manages that kitchen and delivers at that level night after night, year after year, is operating at a standard no one in the world can match. So how did she get so skilled at this? For one, she was not only born in Manila, but was also trained in the rigorous hotel kitchens of the Philippines and Chicago long before arriving in Washington. And she built her skills the old way, by volume, repetition, and aiming to be the best chef the world knows. A wild ambition, no question. But today, no one can doubt she's currently living that dream. Yet her achievements do not stop there. She has represented the United States in culinary competitions abroad and won the American Culinary Federation's Chef of the Year award. She retired from the White House in 2024 after almost 20 years of cooking for the White House. She reportedly runs a private school where she trains a new generation of cooks who now carry her standards into other kitchens across the country. In New York's culinary world, her work is the standard against which a chef's ambition is measured, and she gets all the credit. And while you might think this is the peak of a chef's career, the next woman we'll look at cranked up Cristeta's ambition to a whole new level. Margarita Forés. While most others on this list moved to the United States for higher education or just to search for bigger opportunities, Margarita Forés was so good at her job that she was sponsored and brought in from Manila to work in New York each year because of the high demand for her level of skill. Because when you become the best in your field anywhere in the world's most competitive city eventually starts begging for your attention. Margarita Forés is the most decorated Filipino chef alive today. Even on paper, her achievements seem unbelievable. Margarita was named Asia's best female chef by the world's 50 best restaurants in 2016, placing her alongside the most respected culinary figures on the planet. And it doesn't stop there. From that foundation, she went on to build restaurants in Manila. And the most prominent among them was Grace Park. This became the go-to destination for food tourists, international journalists, and culinary professionals traveling through Southeast Asia. Many believe it was her work that brought respect to the Philippines when it came to global culinary matters. It convinced the biggest restaurants in the world to include native Filipino ingredients and dishes on their menu. She argued that food from the Philippines deserved as much global attention as French, Japanese, and Italian traditions. Back then, it was seen as ambitious, and now it's widely accepted. And Margarita Forés made it all possible. Her relationship with New York has been expressed through James Beard Foundation dinners, culinary collaborations, and the kind of sustained international press coverage that makes a chef's name travel across borders. The James Beard Foundation is the most prestigious culinary institution in the United States. An invitation to cook there is not marketing. It is a peer recognition. Margarita has cooked in those kitchens, bringing Filipino flavors to audiences who set the agenda for American fine dining. And so far, she's gotten credit for her advocacy. But what happens when another woman like this doesn't get well credited for her work? Lilia Clemente. This is the woman who famously taught Wall Street how to properly use money. And her story goes all the way back to 1976, a year when the industry was still skeptical about Asia because of the current stressful economic situation and Cold War tensions lingering after the Second World War. At a time when the US and Asia viewed each other as potential threats, one Filipina saw helpful financial opportunities for both sides. With a big dream and a strong ambition, the younger Lilia Clemente arrived in Manhattan with a thesis on how to start trade connections that would be helpful for America and Asia. This was a huge deal back then for multiple reasons. First off, single-handedly building a cross-border banking company as the first of its kind in the middle of political tensions was like begging for financial failure. Secondly, managing such a company as a woman was rare. No one on Wall Street believed this would work by any stretch of imagination. But despite these hurdles, Lilia Clemente arrived in Manhattan and founded her company. The name was Clemente Capital, and it grew to manage over $1 billion in assets under her management. Many from Wall Street admitted they were wrong and championed her much later as a leading market architect. But one bigger fact often gets ignored. Lilia Clemente, unlike the others, did not build through exits or IPO windfalls, but took the hard road of long horizon holdings, slow capital deployments, and steady accumulation over decades rather than quarters. And the result of this difficult choice wasn't high stocks liable to fall the moment investors lose patience, but steadily increasing generational wealth. Thanks to that choice made over 50 years ago, her personal fortune today is estimated to be at least $500 million. She saw real commercial opportunities that would be helpful to everyone, while others only saw the rising tensions and risks of a third world war. She took the risk and it paid off very well. And just like that, without holding a class, she mentored an entire generation of future Wall Street executives who manage trillions in cross-border capital today. She's known by many today as the Wonder Woman of Wall Street. Others call her a cultural bridge. Monique Lhuillier, she couldn't find a wedding dress she loved, so she built a fashion empire instead. Meet Monique Lhuillier, the woman whose success story is one of the most unique in modern history. After all, almost no woman today builds a bridal business empire simply because she couldn't find the right dress she wanted for her wedding many years ago. Born in Cebu to a jewelry magnate father and model mother, Monique arrived in the United States with a homemade taste in fashion and business. Wanting to improve her skills, she enrolled at the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising, where she sharpened her craft. She met her future husband, Tom Bugbee, along the way, and the week before their wedding would be the turning point of her life. With her wedding just a few days ahead, she searched far and wide for the right wedding dress, but couldn't find any variety that suited her tastes. Every dress she found looked and felt the same. Unable to find one she liked, she made her own. The wedding dress was gorgeous, and everyone loved it. That dress became a business, and that business became a dynasty. The company behind this was launched with help from her husband, and it grew and expanded quickly with lots of input and sponsorships from Hollywood's finest and beyond. Monique Lhuillier designed Britney Spears' iconic gown, Beyoncé's most viral red carpet looks, and even the formal clothes worn by the females of the Obama family during formal events. Her showroom in Manhattan anchors her presence in the city, while her headquarters in Los Angeles has housed exclusive studios where she decides the next big trends of Hollywood's fashion industry. However, the next person didn't build her power on a fashion runway. She built her own in a boardroom. Loida Nicolas-Lewis. Wall Street analysts said it would not work. They said the business was too big, the situation too complicated, and the grieving widow was too inexperienced to hold it all together. Meet Loida Nicolas-Lewis, the woman who proved the best financial analysts wrong by sheer wit and ambition. She arrived in New York from Sorsogon with a law degree from the University of the Philippines, and later became the first Filipino woman to pass the New York State bar examination without holding a United States law degree. This was a big deal on so many levels, as she had just easily cleared one of the harshest gatekeeping processes in the country. That accomplishment alone would have been enough to define most careers. However, she wasn't like others, but before making her big break, she first dealt with a heavy loss in 1993. Her husband, Reginald F. Lewis, was one of America's first black billionaires, as well as the chairman of TLC Beatrice International. He passed away that year, and Loida was thrust into the leadership of a massive food conglomerate worth over $2 billion, with dozens of operations across Europe, Asia, and the Americas. The company had massive debts they hadn't settled yet, and business commentators predicted the entire business would fail. Not even the board members had much faith in what she could do, and they closely scrutinized her every move. After all, why fully trust a woman who has never run a business before? Despite these issues, Loida was able to restructure the company's debt, streamline its operations, and make the hard decisions that protected shareholder value at every turn. In 1999, she executed the sale of the company's European operations, and this transaction returned massive value to investors and closed the book on one of the most remarkable corporate turnarounds in modern history. The total asset liquidation reached nearly $900 million. The wealth she secured from that process funded a life that now covers real estate in New York and a sustained role as one of the most influential power brokers in that community's history. Gina Rosero arrived in New York and built a modeling career that placed her in the pages of major publications. She also performed on the runways of New York City, and the brands she worked with were those that set the global standard for beauty and style. She also partnered with top agencies, worked with major brands, and carved out a professional presence. Gina pulled this off in an industry that has historically had very little room for anyone outside a narrow template. Yet what she did next was more shocking than those achievements combined. In 2014, Gina gave a TED Talk, and during her presentation, she publicly identified as a member of the Pride community. This talk went viral almost immediately and has since been viewed millions of times and has been translated into dozens of languages. To her surprise, this transformed her from a working model into a global public figure and activist. And back in 2014, when identity politics was slowly becoming mainstream, she was set off to almost instant success. To further promote her values, Gina founded Gender Proud, a media and advocacy company that focused on transgender visibility and storytelling, particularly in regions of the world where members of the Pride community were at risk of getting physically harmed. As of June 2026, the company has partnered with international organizations and produced content that has reached audiences across the world. But not even that comes close to what we're about to show you. Josie Natori. Unlike the others, Josie Natori was already successful from the get-go, and strangely enough, that was the problem. By her mid-30s, Josie Natori was a vice president at one of the most powerful investment banks in the world. She was one of the youngest women to hold that title at the Merrill Lynch firm in the 1970s. The corner office, the massive salary, and the immediate access to the top dogs of the business world, Josie Natori had one of the most enviable careers in New York City finance. Yet she suddenly decided she didn't want it anymore. And in 1977, she walked into a buyer meeting at Bloomingdale's with a single embroidered blouse from the Philippines. The buyer looked at it and suggested she turn it into a nightshirt. Josie heard that and made a decision no one saw coming, leaving Wall Street entirely and launching the Natori Company out of Manhattan. Just like that, one of the sharpest financial minds in New York City became a fashion entrepreneur, and the industry had absolutely no idea what was about to hit it. Josie deliberately kept the Natori Company private. On top of that, she had no intention of answering to outside shareholders, with no one putting pressure on possible ways of cutting corners or chasing short-term trends. She owned the vision completely. And from that point, she expanded into over 50 countries and started licensing her designs through major retailers, including Neiman Marcus. This meant other companies paid to use her brand and designs, so she was collecting royalty checks, money that came in consistently without her having to produce a new collection every single time. Those royalties stacked up alongside her core sales until her annual revenue crossed $250 million and her personal fortune climbed above $150 million. Thanks to her strong ambition, her company has been able to employ over 300 people in the city, with her products showing at New York Fashion Week every season. She has sat on the board of the Fashion Institute of Technology and also served as a trustee of the Asia Society. Thanks to her efforts, Filipino and Asian culture moved into rooms where it had never been centered before. Because of her, leading Western celebrities like Oprah Winfrey wear her Filipino-inspired designs, as well as the royal families within and beyond the UK. Her influence grew so much that in 2021, the Philippine government put her face on a postage stamp. Josie Natori walked away from Wall Street with everything she had learned there, turning an unwanted blouse into a global empire worth $150 million. Now tell us what you think. Which of these stories did you enjoy the most? And which of these women do you admire? Is there anyone we've left out? We'd love to hear your thoughts below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Her Status for more videos like this. Now click on the next video on your screen. You will enjoy it. Until next time, take care.